rescheduling the ordinance. He's rescheduling the ordinance. It won't be today.
9 o'clock, we'll call the meeting to order. Note the presence of a quorum with all commissioners present. I'd invite you to please stand. We'll begin with the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome guest, staff, visitors present with us here this morning. First item would be approval of the agenda. Mark, any changes?
No changes, Commissioner.
Okay, with that, I'd entertain a motion.
So moved.
Go ahead.
Commissioner Westerland moves the agenda. Support?
I'll support that.
Supported. Commissioner Carney. Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion's carried. Agenda is hereby adopted. Are there any comments or requests from visitors? Is there any public comment this morning? Last call for public comment. Hearing none, we'll proceed to the consent agenda. Motion would be in order.
I'll make that motion.
Commissioner Leviska moves the consent agenda. Support?
Second.
Commissioner Westerland supports. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion's carried. Consent agenda is approved. On to Mark Jeffers.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Welcome, Mark, and
First
thank
up-
you.
Yeah, first up this morning, we have Megan Cummings, Hope Executive Director. And she's got a presentation for you. I have it on the screen, and I will be your clicker. So, thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So I'm Megan Cummings. Thank you for carving out space for me today to be here. My goal and intentions are just to share our very important program and to bring more awareness to some of our concerns and challenges that we're facing as a nonprofit here in Aitkin County. So as executive director, I've been with Hope now for 7.5 years. And our organization has been here since 1981, so 44 years strong here in Aitkin County. We are located just right next to the Jacques Art Building, so just a block over is where our advocacy offices are right now. All right. The annual report has been shared as well. This is just kind of highlighting where our numbers are at. We do this every year for our funders and our community members, so you can see the impact that we are making. We have a team of 4 right now, 3 full-time and 1 part-time. Myself as executive director, Darla Blegan has been legal advocate for over 15 years here in Aitkin. Jamie Pischke is an advocate for 4.5 years, and then Shanna Servin is our part-time remote-based operations specialist who's been in the DV field for over 8 years as well. So as you can see, the numbers up here are super important when we talk about how many people we're serving every year. We've served, on average, for the last 5 years, over 500 individuals every year with our very small team of 2 advocates. That number is almost 50-50 split. It's 243, I think, last year was the adults, 273 were the children. We help those who are fleeing get to a safe space, and that might be relocating into housing independent of their toxic relationship or home. We don't require people to file police reports or to do orders for protection, but we absolutely assist if that's what they feel is in their best interest. We, I like to say, are the option providers, right? We allow people into our space, we listen and ask what their needs are, and then we really go from there for safety planning. But to wrap your head around that my advocates each have about a caseload of 125 is pretty extensive. In comparison to advocacy, social work is a very similar field. And working with Jesse Schultz and asking about their case numbers, you know, they have 10 to 15 per social worker. Families is how many they have. And then we are helping this enormous number of individuals. We also work very closely with law enforcement and our crime victim service provider here. So we share numbers, and doing a comparison, I think Last year, the sheriff's office had, for domestic violence, they had right around 40 incidents reported. So when you think about if we're helping 243 individuals, about 40 of them are coming forward and asking police for help. That's still a very large, significant number of community members every year that are seeking help from unsafe relationships. So volunteers are another huge piece. We couldn't do all this work without ours. We have over 200 volunteers that help between our rotation of crisis line, because we answer 24/7, helping with our facility, keeping our property in tip-top shape, helping do fundraisers, outreach efforts, bringing in quilts, homemade, donations for cleaning supplies, clothing goods. We have a beautiful resource room. I welcome any one of you to come and stop by anytime. We are a locked facility, but there's an intercom. We'll let you in if you want to kind of have a tour and see our space. It's a home designed to be very comfortable with dim lighting, intentional space for each of the advocacy privacy offices as well. We have a kids play area. We have a laundromat available for them. All right, I think we can go past this. Here's a list of our grants that we get funding for. On average, last year I think I wrote and submitted 28 grants, and we received 20, which is unfortunately one of my lowest years. Like I used to be at like a 92% for application to award ratio, but I'm sure, as you all know, the grant world is just getting more and more competitive. We have never been, although we deem it public safety and a public health concern, we have never been a part of a contractual budget, part of the county budget. We've been able to, with grants, fundraising, and donations, make do. I can tell you it's getting harder and harder, which I'm sure is not a surprise to any of you all, because you're doing the same things with your budgets as well. But here's some of our local ones. Our largest one, we have one state and federal grant at this time, and that's the Office of Justice Program. Total for federal funds, we receive 4% of our budget from them. $125,000 is what we've received for the last decade. It hasn't changed. So in their eyes, to provide victim services for Aitkin County, I'm supposed to make my whole operation work for $125,000 and come up with the difference. As you well know, if you're talking about 4 staff and you have wages and health insurance, that alone takes up a big piece. But we also then have direct client assistance that we'd give to our clients. And I think last year we were at like $36,000 that we used for resources in this county to get into the homes. Sometimes that goes with food, gas cards, clothing, emergency shelter. We use the hotel motel because we no longer have housing on site anymore. But then we also, like when they're getting into a house, we can do the first and last month rent or security deposit, pet deposit. I get special grants for pet specific too, like if they are fleeing, but they won't go if they can't take their fur babies. I do have special funding to help with that and vaccinations as well. Here's a picture of our team. We are small but mighty, I promise. We do pretty amazing things for our small, tight unit that we have. A couple other things. You can go on, Mark. Yep. So $5,150 for contacts with clients. Being that we do get a state grant through the Office of Justice Program, the level of reporting and auditing that's required is very extensive, as you probably all are well aware. But we have to track every single service that we provide. So this number here that you see is anytime there is a phone call, an email, they walk into our office, anytime we're having contact with them or on behalf of a client, we have to track it. So that's how many times in 1 year that took place. 510 was the number of individuals last year, January through December, that we assisted. And some, we don't have a time frame. It's not a one and done. It's where they need us. So as you can imagine, when some are leaving abusive relationships, we are trying to help both parties to have the best family possible. So for some, it's going to be years long in custody battles and support, accompanying and supporting them, offering our support group, court and legal assistance where needed. All right. Upstairs, we renovated, which was formerly our 2-bedroom apartment. Now this is our upper level. That's just a glimpse of what that looks like. We do hold in-person support group every week on Wednesdays. And then from there, they also, during COVID, I was able to get a pretty cool project grant for technology, and we have the capability to do hybrid. So some can Zoom and connect in, and others can be in person. We average, I think Jamie has in that group, probably 6 to 8 women every week, which from past survivors, they say that's a really big piece to have peers in that room that relate to them, that they can feel supported through. It's a big piece of their journey. Let's see. We have different groups doing fundraisers. We call them third-party fundraisers, right? My 2 staff that are paid out of Office Justice Program are my advocates. They actually are not allowed to do any type of fundraising. So that means it falls on myself and my board of directors to do all fundraising. So in that way, relationship building is a really big piece. Hence the SALT group, which is a service action leadership team in Crosby Ironton High School. They've been amazing for us. They've hosted this walk as one of the many. They do donation drives for us, but then they started a walk 3 years ago. Last year alone, we had 165 folks show up from the community to support the walk. And then they kind of challenged, because we have that rivalry between Crosby, Ironton, and Aitkin. So they challenged the Aitkin high schoolers. So we had a bunch come over there from that group. It was a really great turnout, raised just a couple $1,000s. And we really depend on I can't do all of it, right? So for them to take it, they do it all. They coordinate it, they do the graphics, they do the registration that night. And then in this county, we have just an amazing turnout of civic organizations and churches that are also doing the same thing for us. They're, doing Mission Sunday, and they select one person a month, and oftentimes we're on a rotation. Here is just another example of, this was the Garrison Commercial Club that donated $5,000 for us. And then here was the 2024 ones that support us grant-wise and community donations. I will say as well, so when I first started in 2017, I was looking at the financials and I was saying, where's our individual donations? What are those dollars looking like? Why can't I find them in our accounting books? Why can't I find them in QuickBooks? And I remember Darla saying, because people don't donate to us. And I was like, what? I came from a youth center over in Crosby, and I was like, well, tell me more about that. She's like, people don't like to support or talk about DV. It's like swept under the rug. It's not a good feeling. I'm like, okay, how do we change that? I'm like, I know there's people that need us. I know there's people that support us. So then it's about relationship building, connecting. And that's where we were lacking. At that time with the leadership, there was very much a silo effect built. Like I wasn't involved. Their previous executive director did not have a good working relationship with our sheriff, with our law enforcement, right? So there was this, I don't need you, I don't need anyone. There was taking like the women's movement to the extreme. So I was like, okay, that's not how I roll. Like, I like men too. I'm married. I have boys. Like all the things all these stigmas out there, and people being like, you're just a bunch of man haters. We're like, no, let's debunk this. So relationship building became a really big thing. I will say, fast forward now, I do the annual appeal where we send that out to people that have contributed in the past and who are supporters. And I get on average now from community members in Aitkin County, $15,000 annually, which went from 0 to 15,000. So we have hundreds. Some, they want to bring their check in person and they're delivering me a $20 check. I'm elated. That means tons. We give a thank you. We appreciate it. We get it back into our program. Others are writing me checks for $1,000. Same thing. We love it. We need it. We appreciate it. So just kind of showing the efforts that we've made and how that really does matter. Here was just some other fundraisers that we've done in the community. In October, we do the Pints for a Purpose. We were selected and highlighted that. Had about 100 people show up, and raises us a couple $1,000s and brings some awareness. Let's see. Here's just another example of all of the donations from different organizations and community members that are contributing in different ways to our resource room. Here's a new program that I want to touch on. So it takes certification to be able to run this program, and both my advocates recently got certified. We kicked off our first session in March, and what we were finding, the whole point of Turning Point's program, we were finding more and more of our people we had already been working with, we know they're victims, haven't been ready to leave, right? A lot of times it might take years, and that's okay. Like, we meet them where they're at, literally, when we say that. But what happens is it escalates, they fight back, a call is made. Almost every single time, the women's like, yeah, I did it. Yeah, I did it. I hit him. They get arrested. Our wanting to change instead of why doesn't she leave to like, why is this happening? But the Turning Points program is a 16-week session that we can work very closely with women who have fallen into the criminal justice system, right? And we don't want it to affect them, like lose their jobs. If you get domestic assault on your record, you're not going to be able to work in the nursing home. You're not going to be approved through DHS to hold these positions. So it was costing women their jobs. It was costing them relationships outside of there to have this. And they were just settling and saying, but I did it. And we were kind of peeling back the layers of, okay, so self-defense is in there, and we know that we need to help them come to an aha moment of how can I change my life to where I'm doing things different? So that's where Turning Points come in, right? It's motivational interviewing. They do one-to-one sessions with my 2 advocates weekly for 16 weeks. And often by completing that, their probation officer will say that's part of their condition and can get it. Maybe it's then a disorderly, or maybe it's, removed from their record, which is very beneficial because, as we know, if anyone followed or watched the Gabby Petito case, it is extremely hard, and I give law enforcement a ton of credit for the job they do. They wear very different hats than we do. Identifying that prominent aggressor is not an easy thing to do. And what do you do when you have a woman there saying, yes, I did it, I hit him. Okay, you're telling me you did, now I need to arrest you. And they don't necessarily have time or can peel back those layers to know where is that stemming from. So big picture, that's a free program. I will note all of our services are free and confidential. Not all counties roll that way. To the north of us, Advocates for Family Peace, they're charging women $420 per course to take that. And to us, that's capitalizing on the very people we're trying to help. Like, we don't want to do that. So that program is free, but it's there. We're utilizing it. We're excited to keep that moving forward. Let's see. Here again is just a couple of the different churches and then students here. This was Natalie was from the Aitkin High School. She did a service project. It was our largest toy drive to date. Our lobby is actually a very big area, and it covered that whole area. It was just amazing and left us in awe. So we do have young people in this community just stepping up and doing great things. Again, here's just some of the donations that rolled in. Aitkin Women of Today are huge supporters. We have several churches. There's Pastor Sarah bringing in donations. Many people have us. We're set up. We have a relationship built that we just call them. Like if it's cleaning supplies we're running low on, or if it's a certain size PJs we're running low on, they go out, they do the shopping, they bring it all in to us. Grand Casino Max was another one. They brought in and did a food drive for us, and then also a winter clothing drive, and then they matched everything that was donated with a $5 donation. So we are on their radar as well. And here's our board member, Ann Byhofer, just showing her helping unload the massive amounts of groceries that were donated to us for our pantry. Again, we get invited to present. This was a women's group that asked us to come present, and we were selected as their monthly one. And it's a third-party fundraiser, as we call it, but it's an opportunity for us to be in the community, have conversation. Our groups, this was Domestic Violence Awareness Month. They made ribbons and put them around the town for us. We're in the schools as well. We're doing teen dating violence prevention and healthy relationship talks. This year, we were at 7 different sites. And we, for the last 2 years, have been able to have a partnership with the Aitkin Alternative school to have an elective credit offered for attending 4 sessions, 2 hours a week with Jamie. And they do a deep dive into healthy relationship talks. So that's kind of a neat thing, because we all know if we really want to end and break the cycle of violence, we have to start with younger ages. Here's some just more examples of another church, Pastor Steve, that helps out and stepped up. Our quilt bingo we'll go on our 3rd one now. We just finished our 2nd one in March. Every March we're doing this now. Quilts are something that we get a lot of donated and handmade. They're amazing. We have 2 different storage areas in our building for the quilts. Every member that comes in, every mom, every kiddo, gets to take a quilt with them. And then at Christmas, every single person we're helping gets a quilt. And then we do quilt bingo as well as a fundraiser. And this year we raised like $4,000 at quilt bingo 2 weeks ago at the Moose Lodge. Here's just some Thanksgiving stuff that comes in for us. Again, just recapping some of the community donations and volunteers. Like we had 50-some families that we bagged up all of the individual shopping for. And I had a couple volunteers do 16-hour days from Grand Casino Mille Lacs to help get that done and pull it off for us. We give them in bags, then we don't mark them because we allow the parents to decide, are these from you? Are they from Santa? Are they from Hope? Every family and dynamic is different, so we let them do that. Here's an example of having Jamie overdoing teaching the healthy educations at the Aitkin Youth Center. So if you've seen my face correlated in there too, I am also the program director now at the Aitkin Youth Center. So they are tied very closely together. Youth and what we do at Hope are very much interlinked. And then that's just showing the different groups that we're in. That's our building and our location that we've been in now for 20 plus years. Another thing just to state, I think that's our resource room where they can come and shop and take as often and as much as they want. No questions asked. The lobby when they come in, that's what they walk into and where they sit and wait to meet with an advocate. Laundry room, so we have 4 washers, 4 dryers. We provide all the supplies. Even after we help individuals get into their own housing, laundromats are expensive. And then if you don't have transportation and you have kiddos, how do you do it all? So we've created, you can't see it in this picture, but we've created a kid play area, sitting chairs, tables, so that they can go make a day of it. They can take their kiddos, they can play, they can have lunch. We have all the supplies there for them, and we replenish that out of our direct client assistance. All right, just kind of diving in and talking a little bit about numbers. We have our budget, like last year was $431,000. As I stated, Office of Justice Program gives us $125,000. So I have about $300,000 in grants that I write for, or we're fundraising, or we're doing donations for, which is very steep. It's too steep for us. We can't maintain that. So last year, there was a point, because we're not a big enough organization, like Otto Bremer Private Foundation had given us funding for 6 years. They have upped it. You have to have a $500,000 budget to even qualify. Now this year it's $2 million. We'll never be in the running again. So there went our $50,000 that we used to get and use for operations. So last year we had some hardships. We did pay off our building when we sold our other one, which is fabulous to celebrate. But I also stepped off payroll for 4 months and ran as the volunteer executive director to fill those gaps in that budget. So this year we're looking at, we'll probably shave off $100,000 to bring it back down to that $300,000 range to make it a little more manageable, because it's hard, and I know it's only going to get harder in the grant world. But I just really wanted to be able to share what we do, the impact we're making in the community, and then ask if there's any questions, if anybody has for me.
Very informative presentation, Megan.
Thank you.
Commissioners, comments, questions? Commissioner Sample?
I can just tell you that with what's going on with the budget at the state and everything, it's gonna be a tough year for everybody, especially the commissioners, as we gotta do budgets when more's being dumped on us by federal and state.
Yeah, I agree. Everybody's being asked to do more with less. It's scary times, but yeah.
Any other comments? Again, Megan, thank you for the time and the presentation. Very informative.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And best of luck to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Megan.
Mark, we have CHA and CHIP.
We do, and we have Sarah and Aaron in the room. If I'll defer to them, if they want to do some introductions, that'd be great, and I'll throw the presentation.
Sarah, Aaron, you know the routine here. Take the mic or the table, whichever.
Is it okay if we sit here?
Absolutely.
I have notes.
We want you to be
She's the
comfortable.
noter. Hi, Maggie.
Good morning.
Good morning and welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having us. Commissioner Carney, you get to hear us again.
My pleasure.
All right, so we are here today, as Commissioner Weedle said, to talk about our CHA CHIP process, CHA Community Health Assessment, CHIP Community Health Improvement Plan. So I'll try to not use acronyms unless I first explain them, because there are so many.
Thank you.
But you've heard us talk about this process over the last few years, and we promised to return to you to talk about our findings and our plan forward as we embark on the next 5-year cycle. Today, I am joined by Maggie Rothstein, who is our CHB, Community Health Board, Aitkin Itasca Kuchiching, AIK Administrator, and Erica Gunther, who is our newish Community Health Board Public Health Planner. And they assisted us in this process, so they will assist in letting you know what the outcomes. So, you got the clicker? Okay. Next slide, please. So this is just our agenda for the day, and I will be speaking to the first bullet point there, the Community Health Board overview, and the requirements of our CHA-CHIP and an overview of that. This is just a quick slide acknowledging our community members and partners that helped engage in this process with us and provided some valuable insight into the assessment. And now moving forward, we will engage them in the planning work. You can go on to the next one. Thank you. All right, so we will begin talking about overview of community health boards and the requirements. Aitkin County is served by the AIK, Aitkin Itasca Kuchiching Community Health Board, CHB, which supports the Aitkin Itasca and Kuchiching Public Health Departments. Our CHB meets the statutorily mandated requirement of the Local Public Health Act, which is otherwise known as Minnesota State Statute 145A. To protect, prevent, and promote the health and well-being of our community members. The Local Public Health Act requires, do you want to let them know when to click? That'd be great. The act requires that community health boards identify the population to be served with a minimum population requirement of 30,000 people. When an area does not or a county does not meet that requirement, they are allowed to join with neighboring counties to fulfill that requirement, which is how AIK-CHB was formed. The act also mandates us to assess our community, to identify local public health priorities, and then implement activities to address those priorities and health needs, along with other public health areas of responsibility. CHBs are required to have a community health services administrator and a medical consultant, and for us it is Dr. Donald Hughes, and additional board members who are either elected or appointed. Our AIK-CHB bylaws indicate that each member county will have 2 members, with the exception of Itasca, who has 3. One of those members from each county must be a county commissioner, and so Commissioner Westerland is our representative, along with community member Lynn Jacobs for our CHB. The CHA-CHIP process is just one of the public health responsibilities we are mandated to fulfill in response to Minnesota 145A. There are more than 200 years of history behind those current mandates. It started in the mid-1800s when public health responsibilities of both local and state governments in Minnesota were developed. Cities and towns were authorized to enact regulations for controlling specifically infectious disease. In 1872, the first state board of health was established in Red Wing, Minnesota. Recognizing that local communities are often more aware of local health threats and better suited to address the concerns, the State Board of Health then encouraged local boards of health to develop in the 1900s. These boards were responsible for assessing community health, developing policies to prevent disease spread, and ensuring sanitary conditions conducive to a healthy community. Then in around the 1930s, state field offices opened to support local boards of health. And in the 1940s, responsibilities expanded to include maternal child health, health education, disease prevention, and restaurant inspections. Then we had over 2,100 local boards of health in existence, and in 1976, the Community Health Services Act, and since 1987 known as the Local Public Health Act, allowed boards of health to join and work as community health boards serving a larger geographic and population area. That act was modified again in 2003. So today there are 52 community health boards serving Minnesota's 87 counties, including 4 city-specific CHBs, and there are 18 that are multi-county like ours. In 2023, the act was again modified, and the Joint Leadership Team for Public Health System Transformation, made up of county commissioners and state and local public health, adopted the Foundational Public Health Framework, which I spoke to you about a little over a year ago. We'll talk more about that framework next. So the Foundational Public Health Responsibilities Framework, otherwise known as FEPR, outlines the foundational responsibilities of the governmental public health system. It defines the infrastructure that must be in place everywhere for Minnesota's public health systems to work effectively anywhere within the state. In 2023, at the same time the Joint Leadership Team adopted the national framework, the state legislature allocated community health boards more than $9.8 million to build capacity for these responsibilities. And the FEPR framework emphasizes collaboration between local and state public health entities. The team recognizes that transforming the public health system requires shared leadership and diverse perspectives to champion and lead the modernization efforts. For Aitkin County, the FEPR framework helps outline the ways our local health system is equipped to effectively and efficiently address the unique health needs identified within Aitkin County. As we implement this framework, we are enhancing community health services, promoting dignity and accessibility for every resident, strengthening local collaboration between public health agencies, community organizations, and stakeholders. We are developing capacity of our local public health system to respond to emerging health threats and improve overall community health. The framework also provides a solid foundation for our public health system to enable us to work collaboratively and effectively to protect and promote the health of our residents. By understanding and supporting these responsibilities, we assure a healthier and more vibrant community where people work, live, learn, and play. Next, we'll talk about the CHA-CHIP assessment and planning cycle. This is a process that is a statutory requirement that plays a crucial role in our public health system. The CHA helps us determine the local public health priorities by systematically collecting and analyzing data on the health status and the health needs of our community. The assessment provides a comprehensive picture of the challenges and opportunities identified by our residents. By conducting the CHA, we identify the most pressing health issues affecting our residents, and the data-driven approach ensures that our public health efforts are focused on areas where we might have the greatest impact. It allows us to engage with community members, stakeholders, and partners to gather valuable insights and perspectives. Once the CHA is completed, we begin working on the CHIP, or Community Health Improvement Plan. This is a multi-year action plan that outlines strategies and initiatives to address the health priorities identified in the CHA. The plan is designed to be flexible and adaptable, allowing us to respond to the emerging health needs and challenges and to pivot and be flexible as we need. The process emphasizes collaboration, again, between local public health and our community. By working together, we can leverage our collective resources and expertise to improve the health and well-being of Aitkin County residents. This is not a public health plan, it is a community health improvement plan. The CHIP provides a roadmap for our efforts, ensuring that we are making measurable progress towards our goals. The work is essential for guiding our public health initiatives and ensuring that we are addressing the unique health needs identified by Aitkin County residents. So with that, I'll turn it over to Erica, and she'll talk more in detail about our CHA and CHIP planning process.
Thank you.
Again, welcome, Erica.
Thank you. Thank you for having me all. We can go ahead and move forward. So starting with community characteristics and really looking at some of the geographic and demographic information of our community is important to understand more deeply what our needs are, what some of the limitations that we might have, and really understand some of that to be able to be more data informed and grounded in that as we move forward in the assessment work. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. So this is a slide with some of our demographic and geographic information. I have Aitkin County demographics, so information about our residents on the left, and our geographic information about our county on the right. And then down below is indicators from the statewide level to match our local level for some of that comparison. So Aitkin County has about 16,000 residents, and our median age is 56.2 years old, which is the oldest median age in all of Minnesota's 87 counties. Our percent veterans are 12.6%, and those under 65 with a disability is also 12.6%. We can see, so we have an older median age than the entire state, and then higher levels, higher proportion of folks who identify as veterans and folks who identify having a disability compared to the state. And then looking at our total area, so we really do have a geographically vast county. It's the 6th largest county in the state of Minnesota with a pretty low population density, which is a challenge when thinking about public health work. And then looking also at minor civil divisions and others that we share geography with, we have 6 cities, 40 townships, and we border the tribal jurisdiction of the Mille Lacs Band of Ojibwe. Next slide. So this is called an age distribution by sex chart, and I've compared Aitkin County on the left to Minnesota again on the right. What this chart shows is how folks are spread across the lifespan in Aitkin County. So even though we have a median age of 56.2, not everyone is there. So this is a way to help visualize that and understand a little bit more in depth. On the left, it's our female residents, and on the right is our male residents. And then I'm going to say kind of 2 things about this chart before getting into what I'm seeing here. So when I first saw an age distribution by sex chart, my professor really emphasized that the bulk of government services go to folks at the top and the bottom of this chart. So those over 65 and those under 19, 20, really 18, but that's not how age groupings work. And then the other part is that many models assume that this chart looks more like a diamond. It has a bigger grouping of people that are in that middle age range compared to those on the edge. So thinking about that, and especially looking at Aitkin County, I see that we're a little bit more of an hourglass, where we're heavier on top and a little bit heavier down on the bottom. And especially compared to Minnesota as a whole, Minnesota also has some of that trend of that hourglass, but it's less exaggerated than Minnesota. I also see that we're really at a pinch point in that middle age range, and those are our residents who are working, paying taxes, who are really providing that support to those on either end. And so thinking about that is interesting, especially as we're moving forward. Are there any questions about this chart that we can, otherwise happy to keep going? Okay, thank you. So looking at our race and ethnicity data, Aitkin County is more racially diverse in 2022 than it was in 2010, but we're still less racially diverse than the state as a whole, and we have higher proportions of white and American Indian or Alaska Native residents according to the census. Next slide. And then looking at our income and poverty population data, our poverty rates are higher and our income levels are lower than the state as a whole, and that's fairly true for rural counties compared to metro counties. And then also looking at that how poverty is distributed across ages. Children in Aitkin County are more likely to live in poverty than all adults, and that's especially true for children under the age of 5. All right, so now moving into our community health assessment work. So again, Erin mentioned that we work as Aitkin, Itasca, Koochiching, so there's some of this like regional work that comes down, and then we work locally to make it happen. So as a region, we focused in on mental health and well-being in 2020. So it's a five-year assessment. So 5 years ago, The two priorities were mental health and well-being and then substance use prevention. Headed into this one, we wanted to dive deeper and more deeply understand these root causes, and then through really with capacity, needed to focus on one and decided to focus in on mental health. We started to review a lot of that public health data, that population level health data, and still identified mental health is really a priority, especially informed by staff here. And so that's what we decided to focus in on. Next slide. So this is the process that we kind of went through with each one. And so the next 4 slides will follow this cadence of looking at mental health and well-being data and understanding what are the indicators that are notable that we want to focus in on. And then really identifying a population of focus who is struggling the most with these indicators, looking at the data to point us to that need. Once we understand that population, it's called a root cause analysis. We want to understand more about what's triggering that outcome of what's showing that. Just because we know mental health, it doesn't usually start with the indicator. The indicator is a result of something else. And then we worked with community really closely to prioritize those root causes and understand what needed to be addressed through Aitkin County public health efforts alongside community. So, looking at mental health data, these are 2 indicators that we pulled out, looking at 14 plus poor mental health days and then depression levels. That depression level is someone self-reporting that a health provider has ever told them that they have depression. It's also self-reported for the poor mental health days. So looking at both of these, we have sex on the top and age groups down on the bottom, and we can see the female line, that pink line, is higher in both and is actually trending up for depression, whereas the male response is trending down. And then looking at the 14 plus mental health days, it really stands out to me that 35 to 44-year-old age range is the group struggling the most in both of these indicators.
So are males just not reporting?
That is a potential risk, and that's one of the challenges that we always have with data like this.
I mean, I ask that question because you got a lot of male veterans that until they're suicidal or get in trouble with the law, they'll never report. So our numbers with females go up, and males, sorry to say, have that machoism and refuse to report.
That's right, absolutely.
Is there anything we wanted to add around kind of why we focused on these indicators versus suicidal?
Well, I can add. So it is white males have the highest risk of suicide and suicide completion, and that's a data point that we are not dismissing. We continue to work on mental health across males and females in all age groups. For this particular assessment, as we researched the data in more of a preventative look to see maybe where we could have the biggest impact, we identified this particular age group of females, which was an age group and a population that we hadn't really looked at specifically in the past because we hadn't looked at the data this closely, which was really the intent of the whole deep dive into the mental health. So this opened a new door for us to say, what can we do in this specific group? So I appreciate your comment, and yes, that is something that's absolutely of concern, and we've talked about our CAPS work and our mental health work, and I agree with you, and as Erica said, I think that's always a risk of self-reported behavior.
Right.
And because we don't have people, we were just even talking at the advisory committee about the percentage of veterans, and that there are some that simply don't self-report as a veteran. And so
22 veterans a day commit suicide in this country.
absolutely.
9 in 2023 between St. Louis County, Itasca County, and Aitkin County. 9 veterans committed suicide.
Yeah,
We're better as a country, and we're better as humans than that.
right. Agree with you, Commissioner. Thank you.
So we really did identify that population of women ages 35 to 44 in Aitkin County, and wanted to contextualize that more to understand, like, this is what we're seeing in the data, but data doesn't have all of that answers. It doesn't have the why behind things, it just has a what. So we engaged with this group of community groups to start to understand this more. We also approached with, we have identified these as potential root causes, but what are other ones that we might be missing to really get, and that's how we ended up with this list of 14 potential root causes to start to identify and prioritize what could be really driving this outcome. Next slide. And then we went through a root cause analysis where we prioritized what is driving the mental health outcomes that we were seeing between those poor mental health days and levels of depression. We collected data at the Aitkin County Fair, at Aitkin County Chats, which is a community health advisory group that we co-host with Riverwood Healthcare Center, and then Aitkin County Health and Human Services Advisory Committee and staff. And so over on the right, we see that there's that ranking of everything, of all of the root causes ranked from highest priority to lowest priority. Something that we decided to do with this was to develop a weighting matrix, and we did that to elevate resident voice. I see just in the numbers of respondents, we, between Aitkin County Fair and Aitkin County Chats, both of those combined are still less than Health and Human Services, so we wanted to balance that out a little bit more. This weighting matrix didn't change the top 3 or bottom 3 of the priority root causes, but it did adjust some of the ones in between, and that just helps us fine tune it a little bit more. We also heard feedback when we were doing this priority work that a lot of these overlap and are combined, and of course they're not independent of each other. So we created a bucketing matrix to look at things a little bit more closely. Affordability of living refers to all of those around accessibility and affordability. Healthcare was really a difference between healthcare access and mental health access, and those are overlapping more and more. And then gender expectations was a big bucket, and a lot of them grouped into one. And then we left domestic violence, substance use disorders, and menopause and perimenopause as separate and isolated ones. Would you actually go back one slide for me? So on that graph on the right, one of the things that surprised us was how high domestic violence emerged as a root cause. And that was, so even before the weighting matrix, it was the second highest root cause, and feedback at the county fair is really what drove that.
If I might share. Yeah, speaking of, and I sat through your last briefing, thank you, your domestic violence, and now we just went through talking with Hope here. Do you guys work with Hope hand in hand to find these root causes? Because you're doing counseling, correct? You're doing counseling, correct?
We do not do counseling, we don't
Well,
have counselors.
Okay, well, you have discussions to find out the root causes.
Yes, absolutely, and Stacy Durgan on their team has been meeting with me now recently, and then Alyssa, we provided information for some of that data gathering.
All right, that's awesome, thank you, thank you.
Yeah, I'll just add that, we've always had associations with Hope within our agency, and partially because of this, we're diving deeper into the domestic violence and our connections with Hope. So I think Sarah and Megan already talked about getting a date on the calendar to further discuss, so.
Thank you, thank you.
Are you guys working with the VA too?
We work with Penny and Josh in our work, and we plan
I
to.
mean, St. Cloud Mental
Oh,
Health.
I'm not sure. I'd have to ask Stacy what involvement we have with St. Cloud. Yeah, for sure.
Thank you, Chair.
You bet.
Then, so going into our community health improvement plan, this is again that process that we followed across the region, where we asked our local public health practitioners to identify opportunities in their work to address some of the root causes. We then used that feedback to inform strategies, brought that back to staff to fine tune them and get them a little bit more informed, and then we asked staff to prioritize them. We followed a little bit of a different prioritization process in each county, but in Aitkin County, we prioritized strategies that were identified by multiple program areas because that suggests the most opportunity for collaboration and collective work. Next slide. And so the way that we identified these opportunities and started to develop the strategies was through an impact ranking and capacity assessment. And that's based on the idea that no one knows everything, but together we know a lot. And we asked our staff both for a professional perspective and a resident perspective. Professional perspective is because we employ experts in public health. They are experts in their work and they know their work really well. And then our resident perspective is that people hold multiple hats and they can identify both what they're doing in their work and what's going on in community. And so this ended up being really informative for our process. Next slide. So our community health improvement plan Again, that's that summary of the population of focus, the priority root causes, and then next slide. And this is a little bit small, so I appreciate, I'll walk through it a little bit more, but we prioritized 11 strategies in total, and as we had further discussion about this, we really identified that it fell into these two buckets of referral pathways and connections, and then communications, planning, and outreach. The communications and planning and outreach is something around, there are many resources available, but people can't access what they don't know is there. So how do we connect and make sure people are aware of what's available to them, and we can make sure we're really maximizing the resources and opportunities that we already have here in Aitkin County. And then for the referral pathways and connections is we're more deeply understanding how people get connected to these services into Aitkin County Public Health, and then how Aitkin County Public Health can connect people out into resources in the community. And we grouped it into these three of understanding specific pathways to healthcare, understanding pathways to affordability and income-based eligibility resources, and then public sector resources. So really recognizing that counties can be a bit of a beast, and how can we support people in navigating that is a good question. And then as we were having this conversation and recognizing these two groups, we also recognized that although domestic violence was such a high priority in doing that community health assessment, we'd only prioritized one strategy. And with that, we decided to develop what we're calling a CHIP spotlight, and that's us saying that we're committing to intentionally learning and partnering with what's going on in community, and part of that is partnering and learning more about how HOPE is working to be able to understand that more. So really our starting strategy is working to destigmatize help seeking, but we expect that to go in a bit further as we start to learn more. So our next steps are, we're in Q2 now of 2025, and we're really focusing on a community outreach effort to make sure people know this is the results of our assessment work and this is what we're going to be doing about it. And then we're also developing those really much more explicit work plans so that we have the action steps. So right now we're sitting with strategies, and we're needing to develop and firm that up so that we know what our future steps are. And then we're moving into really an implementation phase, and we're wanting to understand how we're doing it and how well we're doing it, and if it's having an impact. That's hard to do in public health because some of this it's really generational work, and so it's hard to say how something will be different in 20 years, but we can start to identify little things. And then, as Erin emphasized, this is a cyclical process. So as we move into 2028, we'll be really wrapping up the implementation and moving it into more of a maintenance phase and restarting this assessment work to meet that state statute requirement. So that's all I have for you today, and I appreciate your time. And if there's any questions or anything else we can get into.
Commissioners, comments, questions?
Very informative. Appreciate it.
Great work. Good job, Erica.
Nice to see the collaboration that you have with other organizations as well.
That's really essential.
And we'll
Well-
come back and give updates.
Yep, Aaron and
Thank you.
Thanks.
Erica, thanks very much.
See you Thursday.
On to economic development, Mr. Mark Jeffers.
Thank you, Commissioner and Board. I have three items today. We'll try to navigate while we talk about them. The very first thing, our Economic Development Committee had some submissions for the BD&R grant application. We had some come in, and it looks like from our committee, we're recommending that we fund the Aitkin Farm Trail, Nature Rocks, and Food as Medicine Festival, all three tourist attraction in our area. All three from the Aitkin area, which we're hoping to get out and get more into that Hill City, Palisade. I'm meeting with some members of the mayors and city clerks of those areas to try to continue to spread the message that we have this available. So we're looking for approval to award these three grants.
Commissioners, you've heard the request. Are there any comments, questions? If not, the motion would be in order.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chair.
We have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Sample approving, support.
Support.
Motion is supported by Commissioner LaVisca. Comments, discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion's carried.
Thank you. Next item up is, we've got a couple of support letters as the broadband BEAD program is starting to put together their submissions. Mille Lacs Energy and East Central Energy both are going to have broadband grant submissions. Aitkin County Economic Development Committee received the request from Mille Lacs Energy and provide funding. We wanted to do a support letter and provide funding toward the BEAD program. The committee recommends funding $25,000 towards the project if awarded and upon completion of the project. This is through our normal broadband funding that we have set aside and earmarked through ARPA in the past, so that's there and ready to go. What we're asking as a committee is to approve a motion to forward a letter of support, which you see copied in here, and also the $25,000 if awarded and completed.
I'll make that motion to approve.
Motion on the floor approving by Commissioner Westerland, support.
Support.
The motion is supported by Commissioner LaVisca. Comments, questions, discussion? We'll call the question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion's carried.
Thank you. And the last thing for me, the same thing, East Central Energy has a project that they'll be submitting. There is a lower funding support here of $5,000 instead of $25,000. The whole entire submission from East Central will not be in Aitkin County. So that's the reasoning for less of a financial support, but it is the same support letter and looking at financially supporting to add the extra points into their BEAD award submission or grant submission. So we're requesting approval for a motion to approve to send the support letter and offer the funding.
Commissioners,
I'll make that support, Chair.
a motion on the floor by Commissioner Carney, support.
Support.
That motion is supported by Commissioner Sample. Is there any discussion? Mark, I'd just like to commend you, your outreach to all the communities and cities, municipalities within the county.
We're working on it for sure.
You've done that since you've been here, so I just wanted to make note of that. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion's carried. Mark, anything else? Economic development?
Economic development, nothing else on the agenda. Just as we move forward a little bit, we're gonna be doing the team administrator
Good.
group that you have is gonna be doing some updates to you on a weekly basis. I talked with Bobby about that a bit, of just making sure that we're keeping you guys in the loop on
Keeping track.
things that may happen, so.
And commissioners, if there's anything specific you'd like in this interim period, Mark is kind of the conduit of communication between the board and
Okay, good.
and staff, so feel free to contact him with any comments, questions, requests that you may have. Thanks again, Mark.
Thank you.
On to County Engineer. Welcome, John.
Morning, John.
Thank you. Good morning.
Morning.
Just a single item on the agenda for you here this morning. We sent out a request for proposals for surveying work for an upcoming project we have out in Rice River Township. It's on County Road 57. The project is just going to be building a good gravel road where now we have a not very good gravel road. County Road 57 is probably one of our most deficient gravel roadways in terms of structure, drainage, that sort of thing. So we've got a $1 million project listed in our 5-year CIP to happen in 2028 to basically ditch and build up the road through low areas. To do that, we need to survey it. We typically hire the survey work done by private survey companies, so that was the request for proposal or RFP that we sent out. I would have put this on the consent agenda, but if you notice, there is probably a relatively new name that we sent out an RFP to, that being to Wind River Surveying. We also send RFPs to WSB and Widseth, both out of Baxter. These are the firms that have all expressed an interest in doing this type of work for us. So Wind River Surveying out of Pillager, when their quotes came in, they were low at a cost of $37,800 compared to the other two amounts that you can see there. The next low being $46,000 769. We are familiar with Wind River Surveying. They're a relatively small surveying company. It's a couple of fairly local surveyors, young surveyors that partnered together and formed this surveying company. One of them actually, before he became a surveyor, worked for us, the Highway Department, a couple of summers. So we're very familiar with the staff, or with, they don't have any staff, it's the two of them. But we're very familiar with both of them, and we're sure that they can do a good job, and we're excited to have them do the work for us, just looking for approval to be able to approve their agreement for this work.
Commissioners, you've heard the recommendation. Barring any questions, is there a motion?
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chair.
We have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Sample approving the recommendation. Support?
Support.
And that motion is supported by Commissioner LaVisca. Any further comments, questions, discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion's carried.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, John.
Thanks.
Item 5, Environmental Services. Director Andrew Carlstrom, welcome, Andrew.
Morning, Andrew.
Good morning, Commissioners. How are you?
Good.
Okay, the first item on the agenda is Residential Waste Electronics Collection Day. And we are on our 8th year with retrofit companies out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. So, as we have done in the past, we're going to charge for the $15 per screened item. And we've had small gains every year. We've had more participation. Last year's totals from June 1st, 161 households and 163 screened items. And again, the big picture is it helps keep it out of the ditches. And so even our highway department, they come and bring items for us. And so it's a good time. And I believe it is effective each year. So looking for a motion to approve electronics waste collection event on June 7th. If approved, an additional motion to approve the $400 cash startup funds from the auditor's office. And this has been budgeted every year. And so at this time, if there's any questions?
Commissioners?
I have a question.
Commissioner
So do people
Westerling?
know where to put all the non-ditch items?
The-
You know what I mean, like the commercial waste, the hazardous waste, humidifier, dehumidifiers, where do they bring those?
They'll have to dispose those at Garrison Disposal or Countryside up in McGregor. Yep,
gotcha.
Yep, or bring them
And
over to
maybe-
Crow Wing.
Maybe that's what we need to promote to, where can you bring
Yes, it's a
these?
good idea.
Because if they bring them all the way there, well, I mean, Garrison's right there, but, I just think that it's, you can bring this, but you can't bring this.
Yes,
So-
that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Andrew, along that line, do you know offhand, is Garrison Disposal open? I believe they are during the times scheduled.
They are not. They're closed on Saturdays now.
They are now?
They are. They're strictly Monday through Friday.
And that question was commensurate with Commissioner Westerland's, that
Yeah.
Yeah.
if they're
that's-
there, drive 2 blocks. And
Yeah, Mr.
Well,
Chair.
that's why they don't.
Commissioner?
Wondering if maybe it wouldn't be a bad idea to reach out to Garrison Disposal, let them know we're doing this, if they were able to have some staff on site for these people that, bring the wrong thing and have to get rid
Yeah,
of
I
it.
certainly could.
Just an idea.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think Paul,
Yeah.
the owner,
yeah.
Paul,
Yep.
would probably be receptive to that.
Yeah.
Good point, Commissioner LaVisca.
Okay, will do.
You've heard the request. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion on the floor, Commissioner Westerland, support.
Support.
Motion supported, Commissioner LaVisca. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion's carried.
Thank you. Second item on the agenda is a request to rescind the resolution that was done, I believe, on February 25th. In an effort to meet all public notice requirements and give additional proper notification, we are requesting the county board to rescind support of resolution 2025-0311-032, Aitkin support of a 300 or more animal unit feedlot in order to allow additional public comments for a second public hearing on May 13th. That'll give us plenty of time to get that in the paper. It failed to meet the paper last time, so, and if okay, I'd like to read the memorandum that kind of tells the story. Future proposed feedlot of greater than 300 animal units at this time in order to ensure all public notice requirements are met and to allow for all proper notification with sufficient detail. We're requesting County Board to rescind their support of resolution, as I said before, Aitkin County's support of 300 more animal unit feedlot. Until all additional public comments are received, at this time we are requesting a public hearing to be set for May 13th at 10 a.m. Currently, Aitkin County does not regulate nor has accepted delegation of the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency's feedlot permit program. Mr. Ken Sizemore, who owns and operates Angie's Meats, is proposing to construct a feedlot at 28096 480th Street, Palisade. The feedlot is proposed to be greater than 300 animal units, but less than 500 in size. According to Minnesota statutes 116.07, after January 1st, 2001, a county that has not accepted delegation of the feedlot permit program must hold a public meeting prior to the agency, MPCA, issuing a feedlot permit for a feedlot facility with 300 or more animal units, unless another public meeting has been held with regard to the feedlot facility to be permitted. Aitkin County does not require feedlots in open zoning. This proposed is in open zoning to apply for a conditional use permit. If approved by the Aitkin County Board, the applicant will work with a representative from the MPCA feedlot program through the permitting process, as well as ensure the health and safety of the environment for the proposed project. And I've enclosed some items when we get to the public hearing. We have a request for a representative from the MPCA. So this is the first of its kind where we've gone, so we're learning as we go. And so at this time, just requesting for a rescinding, and if you have any questions.
Commissioners,
Sure.
Commissioner Carney?
Yeah, if I might, could you scroll to the letter again, please?
Sir.
I have a little concern with the last paragraph. If approved by Aitkin County Board. If maybe we're not the approving authority. If we could change that word to if supported by, you see what I mean? Because that was the main question in that special meeting, who approves the feedlot?
MPCA,
And it's
right?
MPCA.
MPCA,
So
yes, sir.
I just think that would, if we change that one word to take out the approved.
Good
it
observation.
Doesn't give the,
Okay.
Because we're just
Thank
giving a support.
we're supporting the
Supporting.
business, that's correct.
Yes,
Yeah,
okay.
and, but then
Thank
you
you.
want to change that they'll work with MPCA, but they actually need to be approved by MPCA.
Yes, I can add.
So, I mean,
Just a thought there.
Yes.
Because I knew that, remember it came up in the meeting, that was their major concern is,
yeah,
how can the board approve this without,
Yep.
the public hearing? And unfortunately, it was an oversight.
Yep.
They were very well receptive, and a lot of them, once they got the information from the owner, they were more receptive to the feedlot.
yeah,
Yes.
How much does this cost Mr. Sizemore
a lot.
Pardon?
by putting this back? By delaying it?
None. He's still allowed to move his cattle, and he's already moved them over to that area. He just doesn't have that number. And that was one of the things that he brought very clear. The feedlot request is due to the purpose if at some point in time the cattle get to that number. They may never get to that 300 to 500 through his attrition of the livestock. So, but I have to give the gentleman credit. He's making the right steps and doing the right thing. So,
Yes, he is.
Mr. Chair, a couple things.
Commissioner LaBisca?
So, not to talk in circles, I guess, with Commissioner Carney, but I think the way I understand it is since we're not part of the MPCA program, we do have to approve for the land to be used for that, right?
no, absolutely not. We have no authority to approve or disapprove what someone does on their land.
Correct.
Okay? The feedlot system is only approved and managed and monitored by MPCA.
We don't have it.
We, as a board, can support
Right.
this endeavor. And that's what the individual is asking. And he, like I said, I give him credit because he doesn't even have to come to the county board
Right.
or anything. He can just go to MPCA, do the process, but he's reaching out to the community to keep the community involved so that there's minimal questions, minimal concerns about how this process is gonna work, how the contaminants are gonna be removed, the manure, the wastewater, all of that stuff. So again, I have to give the gentleman credit that he's doing the process
Yes.
in a very professional way.
And it is a permitted use.
Right.
Right.
It's a permitted use in open.
And I guess my second thing is, what is the purpose of rescinding our support then? What, did we not legally allow enough public comment? Is there a legal aspect to what we're doing here?
I think the time frame of the advertisement.
Well, no, it wasn't, there was an oversight that it didn't get in the paper. So the public notice never went out and published in the paper. And that was the special meeting that the Logan Township brought up going, hey, we didn't even get a chance to respond or reply or anything.
Okay.
And having failed to do that, we didn't go through the right process of the public hearing notification. And that's why we're rescinding it, and then we'll do the public hearing, and then we'll have to redo the support.
Okay, so I guess you say it's not gonna cost Mr. Sizemore anything
No,
in monetary, but is it costing him in time?
no, he's still doing his cattle, which is fine. He's just not, at this point in time, it's not impacting him, thankfully, by our oversight, because he's not at that limit, at that number of head of cattle at this time.
No, yeah, I get the oversight, our oversight to seeing in the paper, but I guess since we don't have to approve it, it legally doesn't have to go through those channels. We're just doing it as a proper,
We have to adhere to the public hearing
Right.
statute.
okay,
And that's what we're doing.
appreciate it.
Yes. Thank you, Jared.
Are there any other questions? Just an FYI, in accordance with the rules, to rescind a motion would take a two-thirds majority. I don't anticipate a problem, but an FYI. And the motion should include noted changes in the proposed.
Yes.
I'll make that motion with the noted changes, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, sir. Motion on the floor, Commissioner Sample, support.
I'll support that.
And that motion is supported by Commissioner Carney. Any discussion? Again, super majority. We'll do a roll call vote. All in favor? Well, Commissioner Westerland.
Nope, I'm good.
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
sorry.
Commissioner Carney.
I mean, I'm
Aye,
good.
Commissioner.
And I will support the motion. The motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew.
And final request is a request of public hearing, and I've attached more information on that public hearing requesting for May 13th, 2025 at 10 a.m.
You've heard the request. Is there a motion?
If I could, Mr.
Yes.
Chair, that does fit into the agenda that we have started for that date, so that time works.
Okay, thanks, Mark.
Chair, I'll make that motion.
Motion on the floor, Commissioner Carney, support.
Support.
Supported Commissioner Sample. Any discussion? Call it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion's carried.
Okay, thank you, Commissioners.
Thanks, Andrew.
Thanks, Andrew.
I don't see Mike. Does anyone take a 5-minute break?
Sure, I'm gonna go to the restroom.
Sounds good.
Okay, 5-10-minute break.
How could it not? They've been waiting so long for her.
We don't care.
I don't care either.
I'm just kidding if I'm being recorded.
Should've waited longer.
Pardon?
You are,
You
audio is
are.
live. Thank you. I appreciate that. She'll get a chuckle.
Is Mike,
We could go with Jim if he's here, or if you,
I just stopped in at Mike's office and he was on the phone on a conference call.
Okay.
But I poked my head and said that you guys were way ahead, and so he's gonna get up here as quick as he can.
with the board's permission, flip-flop?
Absolutely.
Okay, next item, we'll reconvene here. Next item would be Jim Bright, Facilities Coordinator. Welcome, Jim.
Morning, Jim.
Morning.
All right. I've got I believe you had a copy of the maps of the roofs that we've been looking at. These roofs were on the capital improvement plan, and it was a planned use of fund balance to get these roofs done. The original thought was we were gonna do part of them this year, part next year. After talking with the architect, he said prices are coming back really good, favorable right now. And he said, we'll probably get a better price if we do them all at once. And so, being it was fund balance use, we decided we're just gonna do them all, get them done this summer and move forward. So, I am here to request an approval for the service order from Widseth to do the design and get the bidding documents prepared for the project. This has been approved by the county attorney.
What's the total amount?
4,000.
Roughly 54,000. It's 8.5% of what the total bid package is.
But you just said that you want to have them do the whole complete project.
Yeah.
Is that the 640?
Yes. Yep, that's a rough estimate of what it's
So
gonna
what do
be.
you ask, how much you asking for?
50.
I'm asking for the 54,000,
Okay.
because that's what is for the contract with Widseth.
But I guess my real question is, if we combine it, because you're gonna do over a 2-year project, was this budgeted, is this budgeted to cover this year?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
So, and, the 640 is a rough estimate right now. Hopefully at the next board, I will be bringing back the bid documents, the plan of dates, when we go out for bids, when we will have our meeting with the contractors. And then I will bring it back again after we have opened bids for approval to go out and start the project. So you'll see this a couple more times as we move forward.
Thank you, Chair.
Mr. Chair, just,
Commissioner LaVisca?
so we're, the contract would be with Widseth, and I assume that they've already been doing a lot of the work on the things that we've been doing.
Correct.
With these roofs as is, so some of the work's already been put into it by them.
Yeah, yep. So knowing that it was coming up in capital improvement, I actually had them come and look at these roofs last fall before they got covered with snow, not knowing that we would have no snow this winter. So they had already taken a look at them and kind of had a plan, and we were just waiting until the capital improvement plan was adopted in December for them to get started looking at things, so.
Okay, I guess I just wanted to kind of point out that moving forward, I'd like to see some branching out and getting some bids from other engineering firms, just to keep everything above board and make sure that we're getting our best price that we can get.
Okay, so the 8.5%, I've been checking as we move along, and I talked with Travis from Contegrity Group quite a bit. He said that if we're under 10, he said we're doing very well compared to what he's seeing in the market.
Okay,
So
I appreciate
I
that.
understand that, but we'd still like to see the bids from other contracting companies.
you will see it on other contractors, professional services. We can go out for other bids. We don't need to on professional services, but we certainly can. I mean, I can ask around and get other numbers on future projects if you want to see. But like I said, talking with other people in the field, I know 2 summers ago, the school had a tennis, they had the tennis courts redone in parking lot, and they were charged 11% commission on doing that work. So I know that, you know, like I said, I keep track of where we're at, and the 8.5 is a pretty solid number.
Commissioner Westerlund?
So, Jim, is this gonna affect any of the HHS projects? Cause you're doing two small roofs.
So we had done, there's 2 larger flat roofs on HHS.
Yep.
We did not do these 2 small ones because we weren't sure if
They were
the
gonna go
front canopy was gonna stay. Now we know it is.
Okay.
The other little piece that you see up top, there was some discussion that we might be putting an air handler up on that, and we are not going to be doing that now with the design of HHS.
Okay.
So that's why
No.
we want to move forward with them, get those complete. Then all of the flat roofs on HHS have been done over the last 5 years.
Okay,
So
thank you.
Barring any other questions, you've heard the recommendation. Do we have a motion?
Make the motion.
Motion to approve by Commissioner LaVisca, support,
I'll support that.
and that motion is supported by Commissioner Carney. Any further comments, questions, or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign, motion's carried.
thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Jim.
Jim.
Do you have just a minute for an update on HHS?
Absolutely.
So we have been working through the HHS project. Hope was I was gonna have it in front of you today. And as I mentioned at the last meeting, we had a little glitch with the B3 standards. We've been working through that. It sounds like the biggest money thing is gonna be all of the documentation we have to send in to the state. And then it is also getting a commissioning agent for the mechanical systems. We are getting bids on those mechanical systems right now for doing a commissioning agent. And then as far as the documentation, it's explaining why the products we meet the B3, but it sounds like most of the products that were being bid will meet the B3 standards. So it's basically just WIDSEF has to put in a lot more time on the paperwork. So when next meeting, the plan is to have it in front of you, and we will have pretty much what that total is gonna be extra for this B3 piece of it. Right now, they're thinking it's gonna be roughly in that $40,000 range that is gonna add to the cost of the project. So, but just a quick update on that. So, like I said, you'll be seeing that HHS plan hopefully at the next meeting. So, all right,
Thanks for the update, Jim.
thank you.
Back on to County Assessor Mike. Welcome. Use the podium or the chair, whatever you're comfortable with, Mike.
All right. Yeah, I'll try this. Yeah, so we have sent out the property tax statements with valuation notices here in March 26th. So, yeah, got some people's
Phone's been
attention.
ringing a little bit.
You did.
Yep, yeah, we definitely noticed that they
I'm
got
moving.
mailed,
No.
so. So yeah, our first appeal meetings are coming up here on April 21st, like they, do most years. And so we'll go through that process again this year. Our value changes this year are quite different than they've been in the last few years with, a lot more of the single digit increases to value instead of the double digit, larger percentage changes that we saw kind of in larger groups of properties in prior years. The biggest exception to that would be Mille Lacs Lake. We've increased that over 15% this year, but that's coming off of a reduction last year. So sometimes just depending on the set of sales we have to use, we can see these effects of lowering and then raising and then lowering again. And it kind of can get frustrating, but it's, we're dealing with the property tax system that's been set by the state in that framework. So, and again, we're trying to make sure our average values are within about 10% of what sales prices are, as required by the Department of Revenue. So looking at page 3 here, we could go ahead to those charts. So our overall value changes comparing last assessment to this assessment is on that page. So we have a 3.5% overall estimated market value increase from last year. So it's good to see that, the values are still increasing. Our new construction went down, this year, significantly, but, you know, it's something where it's still a lot higher than it's been, you know, looking at prior years. So we're still seeing quite a bit of growth within the county there, quite a few new homes and that sort of thing. Now, looking at the other property types, probably the most noteworthy there is rural vacant land going down 4%. We did see a set of sales that indicated that our values were too high, you know, this past year from this past assessment on acreage, so we were able to make that adjustment. And it does depend upon what kind of property a person has as to what actual percentage change you'd see there.
Commissioner Carney?
Here, if I might, I see on here agriculture homestead land, a 1% change. But what about non-homestead agriculture? I've seen that go up, and it's gone up drastically. Raw acreage.
Seasonal or no?
Yeah,
Nope,
this.
not seasonal.
Well, I'd say, yeah, this past, the 24 assessment, taxes
Right.
payable this year, that would affect the taxes payable this year for
Yeah.
the first time, so yeah.
And that percentage went up. That was double
right.
digit.
Yeah, from last year's change. So with these columns, the 24 column on the left actually affects this year's taxes.
Right.
On the right, it's for next year, so, unless there was a reassessment, it shouldn't have gone up again a lot for
Okay.
this coming year.
Right.
So, but,
I mean, I'm seeing the acreage going, some of the just agriculture acreage going for $3,000 estimated value an acre.
right.
That's
right.
drastically from over the last 4 years.
Right, yeah, it has gone up a lot. Now this, you know, from, you know, looking at this assessment, we didn't make those kind of increases. I mean, they're probably already up in that range in some cases now, but yeah. But yeah, those are the trends that we've seen, you know, with the data and with sales for, acreage, yeah, there aren't that many really compared to where there, you know, in prior years there were more, but, you know, and like I'll show in the later slides, our overall number of sales is down from what it's been in prior years too, so.
Now, Mike, just germane to one of your footnotes, what would you estimate, for the pipeline, railroad, and power companies?
Oh, for, what their value is at?
Values, yes.
Generally? What are we at?
Pretty
About
status quo?
260 million. It's, it did go up somewhat here for this year's payable taxes from last year, but it was a pretty small increase compared to the prior years, like less than 5%, I believe.
Right.
So, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, yep. So then the next page, page 4, the pie chart of how, you know, the different classifications of property within the county, which hasn't changed much, you know, over the years. Still, you know, seasonal is the largest percentage. And rural vacant, went down, I believe, by a percentage point now. You know, there's some slight changes here. And since the pipeline, the new pipeline project, you know, that added the 5% for state assessed property in that pie, so. Even though it did add a lot of tax capacity, it still only shows up as 5% on that for value, so. And then page 5 shows a 10-year history of where our values have gone, as well as new construction, you know, and tax capacity. You know, the highest estimated value and tax capacity that we've ever had now. But our new construction has, you know, gone down from the prior year, but still is higher than it's been for many years, so.
Commissioner Carney?
I'm sorry, one more question. When you're doing your estimated market values and you're looking at a piece of property and acreage, and say a nonprofit came in and purchased a property for an astronomical amount, $3,000 an acre, you know what I mean? Are you taking that one off to the side and setting it aside because regular farmers and businessmen in this area cannot afford to buy property at $3,000? Now, when you get grant money from the state, these nonprofits can afford. Are you leveling
saying
this
like
price out?
Pheasants for Us or Deer Hunters
Yeah,
Association?
I mean, they buy the lands at a high value. You're not taking that high value and putting it on a normal.
Right, where we don't.
Because it turns into pilt.
Right.
Right, exactly.
For
Or-
now.
For now, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for now, yeah. Well, that's my concern,
Yeah.
because we have to look at this as in, we're losing tax money, but
Right.
also tax land values. If that number is also added in to the equation, it's not a fair assessment, because that's not what the real land value is.
Right.
They're inflated values, purchase values.
Right, exactly. Just like the mining company purchasing land, which they
Right.
haven't done much of lately that we know of, but yeah, we didn't include that
Okay,
along
thank you.
with, you
Thank
know.
you, Chair.
Yeah, because 4,500 acres,
Right.
US Steel.
That one too, exactly, and that was
And
for a lot.
They paid a lot of money
Yeah.
per acre for that. Now it's gonna go
We
on
need to start
pill.
looking at the no net gain on some of these properties. Maybe AMC should have a little school on that.
Something, yeah. Thank you
Yeah.
for being patient with
Just,
me.
yeah, I know, we
That's
know
fine.
somebody
Yep.
there.
And then, yeah, page 6, we have a view or a 10-year history of residential and seasonal sales ratio information. So here's where, at least on those classes of properties, our number of sales is less now than it's been in the past 10 years. So it does, even though there's fewer sales, the values still show that they're, increasing. What people are paying per home or cabin or front foot on the lake still keeps going up, so. And then we also have the median sales ratio on there, so we're within 90 to 105% of the full value, so that's where we need to be to be compliant with the state guidelines, so.
Mike, just commensurate with the previous questions, how do you factor in the inheritance, the family sales, or if a piece of land goes for an outlandish exorbitant amount?
Right, that's a good question. That's something that we look at every year. We go through a process with my staff, with the appraisers, and they actually make a bunch of phone calls and they look at, they'll do research on these sales and spend extra time on those sales that are not typical or appear to have a very high or very low sale price. And we try to find reasons why those differences are compared to where our values are. And a lot of times we do find reasons why, and sometimes it's pretty obvious where there's, family member sale or something like that, or some sort of distress going on. But that's an important thing, because we know that sales information really is kind of the foundation of what we do as far as setting our values. So, yeah.
And these exceptions to the rule, so to speak, has DOR given you any trouble?
Yeah.
For not being in compliance with their 90 to 105?
Yeah, no, it's been many years since we've had any state orders for value changes, so that's why we try to avoid that as much as we can. And,
Sure.
there are still some counties, not nearby us, but within Minnesota every year, that have some issues with having state orders put
Yeah.
on them, so,
Thank you.
yeah.
So, one more question. What about contract for deed?
Those are
Those are included.
considered good as long as the terms are pretty typical. If somebody gets a, no interest contract or some special deal from a family member, then yeah, that's not included, so.
There's a lot of that going on.
Yeah. All right, so page 7, it's a 5-year history here of some more different numbers that we track. And, starting at the top there, the number of parcels that we have that are taxable, has stayed pretty stable over the years, has increased a little bit, but the number of parcels with buildings is pretty consistently going up over time. Maybe between 100 and 200 parcels a year that have buildings that previously didn't have buildings. So there's more, development within the county on some level there. And then also on the third line, the total building value, which I hadn't included this number in the past, but I thought, well, if we have an increase in the number of buildings, we'd want to know what the value of those buildings would be. So, it does, and I believe the big jump in there also includes the pipeline value, because that's an improvement, but even with that, it's in the, it's tens of millions per year in increased building value each year, so. And then as we go down the chart there, you know, there's trends that show up here. There's a, you know, slight increases to the residential homesteads and decreases over time to agricultural homesteads, not by large numbers really, but we are seeing those changes. And then, you know, values, average values increasing over time, as well as the SFIA enrolled acres. People with acreage that's not being used for a farm typically will enroll into the SFIA, and that just keeps increasing every year with the rates that the state ends up paying people for that. So, and then towards the bottom, yeah, our homestead value exclusion really went up, you know, because of the legislation that changed the formula for homestead. So those with homestead would get a lesser tax increase, but then that also takes an extra, you know, 30+ million off our estimated value too. So it does shift taxes to other property types. And yeah, disabled vets exclusion continues to increase over time too, you know, with more veterans qualifying for that program. So yeah, and our number of appeals has gone down since right after COVID, when things really, you know, when we really had to raise values and got a lot more appeals at that time. But
How's it looking for this year, Mike?
well, we have, you know, we've gotten plenty of calls and requests, but it, you know, it doesn't seem quite as busy as it was last year, you know, and the year before as well.
huge
So
last
we'll see. You know, once the meetings start here on the 21st, we'll get a better idea of what's going on with that, but yeah. So yeah, going pretty well so far, I think. So then page 8, I had included this last year too, that this is just, you know, comparing 23 to 24 assessment, what the overall value change was by county in the state. So our value change really wasn't, I mean, abnormal. I mean, we're similar to both Pine and Crow Wing, close by. And then some other parts of the state, you know, out in the ag country, they still had some pretty large increases there, probably due to ag values increasing a lot. So, yeah, so this really depends upon the market in that specific area. But I just thought it'd be interesting to look at how those changes are happening. And like the metro area, there was very minimal changes for value. And sometimes we hear about that from the seasonal owners. So, yeah.
And that's kind of a unique situation
Down there then,
with, well, just the state alone,
right?
with a lot of employees, which appears to be changing,
Yeah,
working from home.
right.
There you have a lot of vacant rental property, commercial rental, whose valuation has to go down.
Yeah.
It's not producing any revenue.
Mr. Chair, if I may, on this Big Sandy in the core,
Right.
how are we looking at that for taxes?
Well,
When
we're,
we talk about lakefront, lakeshore property going up, if you don't know who owns it, how are we gonna work that?
right, that's something we're keeping track of and trying to,
I get it's a hope and a prayer, but I'm just saying, if you send me my taxes and I live on Big Sandy and I have a sign out in my backyard that says owned by the Corps of Engineers, me and you got a problem.
Well,
Right.
have they always paid shoreland? Those people that have a sign?
Yes.
right. they
Okay.
have.
Total acreage,
So
right.
maybe they should fight for a rebate.
Whoa, don't go there, Lori.
That word, that has to come from us.
Yeah, but then it would, no, it has to come.
But I mean, I'm just bringing that up as we're talking about this and the core thing is getting hot.
Sure, right.
That now that the Corps putting signs in people's yards, that's a
Right.
big thing I'm hearing is, what are we gonna do about property taxes?
Right, and I've, you know, the couple people I've talked to recently that had land on, or have land on Big Sandy, in their particular situations, they weren't affected. I mean, they were in a part of the lake that wasn't affected, so I haven't, I mean, recently I haven't spoken to anybody who would be affected, and then we have the situation where most of that survey hasn't been completed yet, so we don't know exactly where that line is, and a lot of question marks there about what's gonna happen, you know, with that. And in the end, if it is determined that, they don't own the frontage, then it's like, well, how is the Corps gonna manage that property differently, or what are they gonna do? You know, and hopefully, I mean, maybe the Corps might, do what the board asked and deed that property back to those individual owners, which would be great, but.
Without divulging sources, just in some conversation that I've had, there's some degree of optimism that some amicable terms can be worked out with the Corps.
Yeah, that'd be.
I know there's a lot of pressure out there on them right now.
For what it's worth.
There you go, for what it's worth.
Okay, so then on page 9 here, this is a copy of the postcard we sent last year to the reassessment areas within the township, or within the county, for those townships and cities that were affected. So now, again, we were planning to do this, this spring. And then again, have a, you know, QR code on there for people to be able to quickly get to our website and get some questions answered if they wanted to, or, so that's, you know, people, when, you know, when our appraisers go out into the field and meet people at their doors, they will say that, oh yeah, we saw your postcard, and sometimes that helps with giving people a heads up what we're doing, so. But, yeah, and then page 10 through 14 shows is a more detailed rundown of exactly what changes we've made. You know, looking at specific types of land or specific buildings and how, you know, what kind of changes were made. Like, for instance, throughout the county, we had increased all home square footage values and garage square footage values by 5%. And that's really more of just an effort to continue to keep up with prices, you know, for buildings and that sort of thing, and with the sales too. And as you go through those additional pages, like 11 through 14, we'll look at an individual line for each township that will show what types of changes were made in that area. And like I said, Mille Lacs Lake frontage is probably the most significant change for this assessment with the increase there. We had made some small reductions in Big Sandy and Minnewawa this year, but nothing drastic there. We increased commercial and industrial building values 10% in most areas, along with apartments too, so. Yeah, so, and then page 15, that has our residential and seasonal change, actual percentage change after all adjustments were made, including new construction, reassessment, and the market adjustments. So that column that says 25 assessment value change, the third one in, that's actually what percentage we've changed values for, you know, township by township throughout the county, so. And then, yeah, that final column shows the median ratio, or the sales ratio of, within each jurisdiction. So if we have 6 or more sales, then we have to be at least at 90%, but not more than 105, so. So in those and there's quite a few that don't have 6 sales, so then we don't have a valid sample size, so then we end up with some that are outside that range, but that gets into, it can get into a variety of different situations, but as long as we have 6 or more sales, then we're within that range, so 90 to 105. All right, so then land schedule for 25 assessment is here. And that shows, there's the 3 different colors, green, blue, and red. So basically have 3 different rates per acre there, depending on what part of the county you're in. So generally the far northern part of the county and southeastern part of the county is the red zone, and then we have blue. And these rates are set by township because the state has a system where they look at our sales by township, even on acreage. So, and a lot of times we don't have 6 or more sales within one township in 1 year, so we have to look at a 5-year history of that and get into all that. So over time, we end up with these rates per acre, and it's split up by if it's wooded or open or tillable or swamp, and we have different rates for each of those. Of course, with swamp being the lowest, and then we have high wooded being the highest of any of those, so. All right, and the next page there is our Board of Appeal schedule, starting on the 21st through May 7th. And then the county board will be on the 17th of June, so. We do have an appointment already for the county board, but, usually we don't get appointments until closer to the date of the meeting, so.
Is that appointment from an unorganized, don't they have to appeal to their basic governmental unit first?
Right. This is in an area that doesn't have a local board meeting, so.
Okay.
Landowner up in the Palisade area contacted us, so. But yeah, that is basically what I have. Any questions from any of you?
Commissioners, comments, questions? Mike, just a question. Was it the homestead credit or the taconite credit which increased?
Yeah, the taconite credit increased for this year's payable taxes, so anybody within the Aitkin School District.
And that made a rather significant difference on the property, homesteaded property within ISD number 1.
Yeah, it went from, what was it, 290, it was 290 a year per homestead to 515 it is now.
Yeah,
So that much of a reduction in their taxes
Did
for
it go
each
to
homestead.
commercial too?
no,
Did that-
it's just homestead.
Just the homesteaders.
That's what
yeah.
I was pretty sure about that.
Yeah, and that
But
was
we're still working on that state general tax.
Yeah, good luck.
Carry on the fight started by Commissioner Don Heaney. Other questions? Really good report, Mike.
Yeah, thank you.
You give us a lot of information here. Help us answer questions and give us numbers and statistics that we can respond to our constituency. So
Yeah, if you have
very,
any other
very helpful.
questions later on, just, you can get a hold of me and I'll try to answer as best I can, so, thank you.
That was good. Thanks a lot, Mike.
Mike.
On to human resources. Bobby, welcome, Bobby.
Morning, Bobby.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I have a county administrator recruitment update and want to talk about the process moving forward and receive direction from the board today, so that's why I'm here. The board interviewed 3 finalists on March 20th. A conditional job offer was made for those who were not aware of that following the interviews. March 26th, we got a withdrawal from the candidate that we made an offer to, citing that the timing was not right to move forward with building their new home on their property in Aitkin County and selling their other home. So
Took them a week.
we did explore multiple options in an effort to bring, either an acceptance to you or another proposal to you from the candidate, just in hopes that we could recruit that top candidate that you had identified. But despite these efforts, the candidate ultimately chose to withdraw, citing their home construction as the determining factor. He did express that much appreciation for the offer that was made to him, noting that it was a generous offer and that his decision had nothing to do with the terms of employment that were offered. He thanked the board members and staff for their kindness throughout the process and conveyed sincere regret that this was not the outcome he had anticipated when applying. So he also apologized for the delay his withdrawal may cause in our hiring process. The second candidate called on March 24th, indicating that she had been offered the city administrator position in Crosby, Minnesota, and would be accepting that offer. And the third candidate received a courtesy letter. So That summarizes the three that you interviewed on March 20th. And now you have several options to consider today moving forward. I'm hoping that we can have a discussion and determine how the board would like to move forward today, and then also determine whether the full board or a subcommittee of the board desires to be involved in the recruitment process here forward, however the board prefers. I had a handout that listed several options that you can choose from. I had also shared kind of a summary of the applicants that are still in the pool. If you want to look at those, I have a printout of those and
They were
a
hard to
magnifying
read.
glass that you can pass around because the print is really small. But the options that the board can consider today are listed on that sheet. You can increase the starting salary range to attract a broader and more experienced pool of administrative candidates, and then re-advertise the position. Our current salary range goes up to $164,000, and the budget includes $139,400. Comparison county administrators earn between $126,000 and $185,000, with an average being $157,000. So that gives you, an idea of where other administrators are currently being paid. That's option A. Option B would be re-advertise the job as is. Maybe we put it out for another 30 or 60 days in hopes of attracting more candidates. The month of June offers greater relocation flexibility for any candidates that have children in school still, because it aligns with the end of the school year. We could go, that's option B. Option C, we could go deeper into the current pool. You interviewed everyone who scored 80 points or higher on March 20th. If you want to go to the next batch and maybe interview everyone who scored 70 points or higher, as of today, you have 5 candidates who fall in the 70 points or higher category. You could look at option D, which is lower the qualifications from county administrator to county coordinator to provide an opportunity for less experienced candidates to apply. I know you kicked that around. It's maybe not an option you're interested in, but I put it on there because it is still an option. Option E would be hire a search firm. DDA had previously quoted the board $24,000 for a search, or we received a cold call this past week from Michael from MGT, which is formerly GovHR, and he said they're currently supporting the city of Breezy Point, Minnesota. So I don't know if that reference came from our former administrator, Pat Wusso, who used to work there, I think,
Yeah.
didn't he? I don't know.
What
I
is
haven't
he- what
reached
is he
out
s-
to him.
What is he saying?
He's just
offering
reached
his
out.
services?
Yeah, to offer his service to the board as a search firm.
Okay.
And then item F, or option F, would be explore any other ideas or approaches that the board members have. So,
Thanks, Bobby.
So I have a question for Bobby.
Yeah.
So the county comparison, which comparison counties did we do?
okay, our
The ones around
typical,
us?
Yeah,
Our
our-
typical ones?
typical,
Okay, I wasn't sure, cause
yeah.
that seemed
Do you know who those
really
are?
high.
Or okay.
Yeah, yeah.
It's every contiguous county except St. Louis.
Yep. Gotcha.
Yep.
Well, in addition to Bobby's recommendations, Personnel, Michael and I met, and we'd just like to throw out some ideas and proposals to the entire board. Number one is, in concurrence with Bobby's recommendation, continue advertising for another round for 30 days.
I think more like 60, so that way school gets out. You know what I'm saying? And that's when most people are moving. So then you're looking at June. I think you got competent staff out
Oh,
here
Good point.
doing their thing. So why rush? If we take that 60-day when people are looking at moving, that's,
Prime time for families to move if they have families.
It is.
Summer rate, good point.
Gives you a place to move.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah,
I'm also wondering if maybe we should start with 30 and not tie ourselves into 60. Do you know what I mean? Start at 30 and be like, well,
And
we'll
see
move it
what
out
comes
another
in at the
30
end
if
of
we don't.
30.
Because I also wouldn't want to get into a position where in the first 30 days, we could have some great candidates, but they're not willing to wait out that
60 days.
60-day
How about
window.
open and,
but if we have it open, if we find that great candidate, we can close it at that point, can we not?
I was just, off what Travis said, we could post it as open until filled. First review of applications will be on X date
Okay.
at 30 days.
Right.
That
makes
And then
sense.
if
terminology
you-
gives us the option.
Right, I
If
like
you
that.
don't have a pool of candidates at 30 days, just keep
open.
advertising for
Okay.
another 30
That's a
days.
Thank
very
you,
good
yeah.
point. And I might add on to that, Cook County ran into that problem, is they had that long span and they had great applicants, but by the time they set the
Got to it.
They
interviews,
weren't, right.
half of them were already gone and picked up. So that's a very good point, very good point.
So commence continue advertising, in accordance to the terminology offered.
Okay, so re-advertise as is, it's option B on there, just like we talked about, open until filled. Do you want to do anything with the salary or leave that as is?
I would leave it.
I would leave it.
Leave it?
It gives a
We don't
pretty,
know what our-
pretty broad range.
State and federal are gonna do.
Yeah,
I have no clue.
it'll be
We
a,
already have budgeted
Yeah.
over,
We've
it'll be a
already
tight
got-
budget year, yeah.
right.
And as
Okay,
Commissioner
and
Sample noted, we've got a very competent team in place.
Yeah.
There's no need to panic. We've gone down this road before. And I think we can buy a couple months, maybe more. And I'll go on with what we're gonna recommend. What has been said as part of the recommendation. And maybe the board to voice their opinions on the point system used currently to rank the candidates. I think you put a very high number on education.
which is typical for this position,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Again, not suggesting we do that, but just something the board may want to take a look at what we currently have. And
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen that, what we.
I think it would be good for all the board to see it.
Yeah,
It was sent out to all the board members and I can,
Yeah,
I can resend it,
Resend
if you'd
it.
like. But that is typical. I mean, this position is running your organization. And typically, they do have a bachelor's degree or a master's degree, excuse me, in that position. That doesn't mean if you exhaust the pool and you've gone through all those and they turn the offer down, or you don't find a candidate that meets the qualifications you prefer, that you can't go lower.
Yeah.
But you're not gonna start there.
I think, Mr. Chair, I think kind of on the back of what Commissioner Weedle's saying is I always have been more of an experience over paperwork kind of guy as well. So I'd like to see a little bit more emphasis, maybe, you know, if so you don't have a master's degree, where's your experience at?
Yep. Okay, why don't I send it out to you?
Yeah, I'll
So
take
everybody
another
can get a
look at it,
refresher
yeah.
of where we're
That'd be
at.
great.
And
That'd
then
be
we
great.
can,
I agree with
yeah, can you give me a hard
get
copy?
that. Yep. Sure,
Please,
I
thank
sure
you.
can, yep.
What else you got, Mark?
Okay.
Well, commensurate with that, we can go for 2 to 3 months.
Okay,
With the team we've got. Take a look and see what you think about the rating and the ranking. A couple things that I'd like to see is more experience, less academia. That's been discussed here. The second thing I personally feel is extremely important is county experience with county government. County government's a lot different than city government. Not to say, we've had some pretty good city administrators that
We have. We've
Have
had
led
2
this county.
exceptional-
Jessica was one,
Jessica, yeah.
we really have in Pat
She
Wasso.
had a
That was
lot
a-
of experience.
She only had 1 year of city experience
Yeah,
before
but
coming
I
in
mean,
here.
I'm just saying that she had a lot of experience through the.
And I'm not
process.
saying necessarily as a county but they have to have a vast and a good working knowledge of a county.
okay.
I would think you wouldn't want to go lower than a bachelor's degree.
That would probably be uncommon if we did.
Or what a lot of people, when I was back in the personnel director position,
Yeah.
in hospital administration, a degree of whatever, or equivalent experience.
Amount of experience years. I mean, I don't, I am not a fan of degrees. I've hired many people through corporate America, and there's always a caveat we put in there, because there's some people that they didn't go to college,
Yeah,
but they've got 15, 20 years of of experience, and they're experts, more so than a young woman coming out of college with a bachelor's degree.
But that's not what we're talking about here. We totally understand that work experience is important, but I think you have to set a minimum standard of what you want, work experience versus education.
Okay, so I'll send the scoring out that we currently have, and then we can,
Sure.
take a look and
Commissioners
see if we
can
wanna
give you
change
some
that.
input.
Yep, that would be
Yeah,
great.
no, it's just something I think comes to us to make the decision as a board. Like,
Right.
And
I don't wanna take somebody who couldn't afford to go to college, but has every bit of the ability that they need to do the job.
In some
and just
cases,
throw 'em
more.
out. Right,
And more qualified.
so we just wanna be careful with that.
I think 20 points was on the top level of education, so really the bulk is already on experience,
Right.
but I'll pull that out.
Okay.
Sure.
Take a look at it. And the other piece, Mr. Chairman, that I need is, does the board want to assign the personnel committee to be involved kind of as the go-to board, or do you want that to be the whole board? And I just need direction on that.
Well, this is gonna be part of the,
This discussion right
Oh, you have more, okay, thank you.
He's got more.
we got more.
All right, all right.
Just alongside the qualifications, something that I've noticed, Jessica was a good example. She had private enterprise experience with the bang printing with universal pensions. There's a whole lot to be said about being in business for yourself or working in the corporate structure. So if you could somehow incorporate that too as a possibility. And we can go for a while with very competent management team that we have. But as things go on, and we don't have to make a determination today, appointing an interim administrator. We've done this in a variety of factions. It could be someone internally, or in the past, we've shared with the other counties.
Roxy and.
But we don't have to be in a big panic hurry to determine that. But just a thought as time goes on. And then lastly, the committee would recommend that the board take a second look at the interview questions. There's a lot to be said about subjectivity. You know, tell us what you know about PILT. Tell us what you know about consolidated conservation, community corrections, health, human services. The multi-millions of dollars that go through these departments. It's nice if somebody had some type of background,
And Road and Bridge.
road and bridge.
Nobody will ever know that.
That kind of sums up. Michael, anything you want to add?
No, back to Bobby's question. We need as a board to decide how we're going to proceed with the negotiation process. I think there was some misunderstanding on the board's part, and to our fault, we didn't give Bobby the clear, concise direction. And this time go around, we want to make sure we do that, so it's fair to her and she's not guessing on what the process is to be. So the question is, do you want the committee, the personnel committee, to do the negotiations? Do you want it have to come all the way back to the board for you guys to decide? We need some direction from the board here.
And as a personnel committee, normally we have a pretty good idea of what the board is thinking. If there's anything that we feel really needs the full board in the negotiation process, that it goes to the full board.
Okay, well, I want the board to understand, I don't want her hanging out in the balance like she was, because there were things that we misunderstood in the negotiation process. Are we going to allow HR to do their job and negotiate,
On
help
behalf
me,
of,
on
Right.
behalf of the personnel committee?
typically, we would negotiate, options with the candidate and then bring it back to the board
Yeah.
and say, this is what the candidate will
Options.
accept. And
Five
the
commissioners
board
with
can
different-
accept or deny or change and say, I can live with these three, but not that last one. And then I bring it back to the candidate.
So when you're negotiating, everything's contingent on the
Board
board's
approval.
approval.
Absolutely, yeah.
Is the board fine with that?
Yeah, I
Yes.
mean, we have Commissioners Carney and Weedle on the Personnel
Yeah,
Committee who we
and I'm
trust
fine
to
with
make
that.
those initial decisions, and that, in my opinion, you know.
Yeah.
So
That's why
her
you're there.
conversation, as she's making negotiation, I wanna make this very clear. She can come to the two commissioners and say, hey, this is what we're talking about. Right?
She should be able to come to any commissioner.
Okay, if that's what you want, but that, to her demise, that now she has to stop and send all the stuff out.
But that's what
To
she
all
had to do
commissioners.
anyway when she was negotiating. If
But
she
some
had
of
an
this-
agreement,
But some of the stuff wasn't sent out to all the commissioners, and this time we wanna make sure that there's no questions. It's not fair to put her in that position to where she's negotiating PTO, extra PTO, help me out, all these other items, working
Housing.
from home, housing, et cetera.
Those
You
are
know-
typical things that we do negotiate, but we can bring it to the full board or the personnel committee, whatever the board prefers. We're happy to do
Yes.
whichever method
The
the majority of the
personnel
board
committee
wants.
was designed as the facilities committee, as the budget committee, as the personnel committee to streamline the process.
Yep.
And refine things so the board
So.
doesn't have to waste a lot of time refining.
Right, and I wanna put this in clear, plain English, that Bobby has the latitude to do this and come back, and if something comes up, she comes and calls Mark and myself and goes, hey, we're looking at doing this. Do you want us to stop the process and have all the commissioners notified that that's the
you're
process?
making a mountain out of a molehill, because my thing is, she negotiates, then she comes back contingent on the board's approval.
Okay,
Or
as-
am I
as-
wrong in that?
As long.
That's correct.
Right, but there was talk last time that they thought that it was outside the parameters, and I don't want it this time. As sitting on the personnel committee, I want her to have the fair latitude to do that. So if the board wants to say yes, give her latitude, then give her the latitude and let her do it. No questions asked. She brings it back to the board. We don't ask her about, well, why did you offer them this? Why did you, we can't second guess her. That's the point I'm getting at.
Mr. Chair, so that's the typical process then, is Bobby does the negotiating for salaries, for benefits. For all
Within
this
the
kind of stuff.
parameters of the
Within the
board.
parameters of the board. However, I think, and this isn't in any way a knock on the job you do or what you do, but I think
understand.
for this specific position,
Yep.
I'd like to see the two commissioners on the personnel committee a bit more engaged than maybe typically would be on a position that would be below our HR level. If that makes sense.
That's
Okay.
fine.
But not the full board, Michael. You and
No, I
Commissioner Weaver.
understand. I just wanna make it, I just want it clear this time, go around, so there's no confusion.
Okay, so just so I
Please,
summarize,
absolutely.
my point of contact will be personnel committee.
That,
Do you want
first and
this-
foremost,
Do you want
are
the-
we in agreement?
We are in agreement.
Yeah.
I am.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
for the record.
For the record. So, and then I will CC the other commissioners just as an informational piece, so all commissioners are receiving the same
Sure.
data.
Absolutely, I think that's.
A caveat to this,
But I will be looking for the response from personnel committee commissioners.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
and you can check with the county attorney, Jim Ratz. One of the reasons committees, quite frankly, were established, is to not violate the open meeting law.
Right.
We do not have a majority, but hopefully we've got two trusted commissioners that can funnel the information to the
So
entire
do not
board.
respond.
Yeah, just don't respond to all,
Three
please.
of us can't respond, otherwise you're
That's
looking
right.
at potential.
Yeah.
And there again, that was
I can put that
a
reminder in there
component
too.
of why we have committees,
Right.
because there is not a
Do not
majority.
press all. One commissioner.
Okay,
I'll put
are
that
you
reminder.
comfortable with that, with this decision?
Yeah,
You know-
your direction, I understand the board's direction and
Great.
the, these talking points that Mark conveyed, and we'll look forward to advertising for another, at least 30 days, open until filled.
Open until fall.
First review of applications in about 30 days, and then you can, if you don't have a pool that you want to interview, you can go beyond that. So,
Awesome.
thank you very much. I
Thank you.
appreciate the direction.
Thanks.
Thank you, Bobby.
Bobby.
Okay,
And sort of commensurate in terms of timing, I appreciate, Mark, all you're doing to intervene, being the liaison between the county government, the staff, and the board. And I like your idea of weekly updates to the whole board. Bobby, anything else?
nothing else. Thank you.
Do we have a
Mark.
personnel meeting?
We do.
Okay.
Yeah. afterwards.
We'll sit.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
I think we got some good things cleared and established here. On to committee updates. We'll go clockwise today. Commissioner Carney?
Most of my meetings are next week. We did have the Health and Human Services, and you guys got the presentation this morning, so I'll just pass it on to Commissioner Sample.
Most of my meetings are next week. And at the last week of the month.
Okay, I, since our last meeting, had, our jet board meeting. We just went over some things that we're looking into. We need to start looking at, contracts for the workforce, both the unionized and the heads. So we just kind of started on a little bit of that. We're gonna look at actually using, Christie, or for the Leo board, the attorney that we use. for
Oh,
the county.
Christie Hastings?
Christie Hastings, yep, because she's good at what she does.
She's excellent.
So she's kind of looking over, current contracts and what we've got going on. And then ATV committee was canceled due to the weather last Wednesday.
You needed an ATV to get to the meeting.
Needed one, right? So, DJ did send a quick update that the EAW is complete and been moved on to where it needs to go to. So, we're moving forward on that. And, most of my meetings, again, like everybody else, are next week.
Thank you, Commissioner LaVisca.
Me? Well, Michael, you forgot, we went to the leadership,
Oh, we did go to the
Yes,
leadership. I forgot
the
all about it.
leader-
You go right ahead.
at the Grandview, and we learned a lot about self-care and how to treat people, and our table was kind of boring, but Michael kept it rolling. You know, it was from, what was his name, Welly? No relation to John.
Yeah, no
Mark,
relation.
Mark Welly or something?
Yeah.
Great speaker, and, you know, just learned a whole bunch of ins and outs on how to self-improve and
Outperform the norm.
outperform the norm. He's got a great couple of books out. I haven't dove into them yet. One watershed, one plan. I didn't go there, but I had, Sam Siebold went and did a, presentation, with the Mille Lacs Lake drones that we did in the Aitkin County space. So that was really cool, I guess. I had a lot of people say, that was great, and I'm like, sorry, I missed it. I was leading people. ATV was canceled. We had MRC yesterday. We just did a, the Zoom thing, and we had Grant Hochschild there. He just talked about a few things. I know that we are looking for some lakeshore pilts. After looking at the lakeshore evaluation report, talked a little bit about that, but a lot of stuff, is just kind of up in the air with everybody. There's no decisions that have been made really on anything. We kind of talked about the family leave stuff, the HHS family, the long acronym one, and how it might be rolling out, and the systems that is working through HHS to help do that program is not worth a penny, so they need to put money towards the new system on that. But otherwise, that's it, and I'm here today.
Thanks, Lori.
Yep.
HHS, I was unable, I had a conflict. Commissioner Carney filled in and gave an update on that already. So that's, other than dealing with personnel issues, that's all I've got. Anything else? Not. Thanks, everybody. Mark, any?
Just a thank you to Paula for taking notes today, and a special thank you to Chris. You guys can all go home and watch yourselves on the video.
No.
Didn't look like there was any big issues that went on, so please go home and enjoy that.
How do you access that?
I can send you a.
Is it on the
link.
web
It's on
page?
YouTube.
Oh, it's on YouTube, okay.
We are currently live streaming on YouTube.
Okay.
So if you are subscribed to the Aitkin County Naturally Better web, YouTube channel, you would have seen when we went live, or you would get the notification that there is a new live video available to
Okay.
watch. But I can send it via email after.
Okay.
after
If you
the
could,
commission. Absolutely.
that'd be great.
Yeah,
I have a
I will
quick
point out
plug.
that the cameras do need a little bit of tuning. They're supposed to auto switch between the dais and the podium view. That is a little funky,
Wonky?
so I will have to have our vendor tune that system a little bit.
Okay. I just have a little plug here on, April 12th at Mud Flats. It's the old, oh my gosh,
Always, bud.
no, it's called Mud Flats. Oh my gosh, in Wellthwood, right on 169 on Mille Lacs Lake. They're having a great kids Easter egg hunt starting at 10:30. So, bring your kids and eat lunch and have a great time. We have bunnies and we have all kinds of fun stuff there. So, anyway, it's just put on by Mud Flats. Lions aren't doing anything this year.
Thank you for that invitation.
Yeah.
Barring any other business, to entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make that motion.
Commissioner LaVisca moves adjournment. Support.
Support.
Motion supported. Commissioner Westerland, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion's carried.